Skylar Astin stars in Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist as Max, who had quite an eventful season two. I'm Kevin Jacobson of Gold Derby here with Skylar, and I want to just go back to the time after the show was renewed for a second season and you were starting to learn about what was next for Max and Zoey and the show itself. What were you most excited about having to explore heading into season two?
Well, when we left Max in season one, he had just actually gotten fired, and he'd also had this like breakthrough kiss and moment with Zoey. So I was definitely gonna want to see where we went with the Zoey love story, but also Max's personal life and professional life. Basically being a free agent, an independent contractor, someone with a lot to offer. And I also had heard from Austin, our show's creator, that we were going to delve a little bit more into his family life and meet his father, and even so much to talk to me at that point about where he was headed with the full-on season finale.
And I feel like Max has definitely grown a lot since we first met him in the first season, and he's taking more control of his life, his professional life, his love life, just who he wants to be. And it still feels like the same character in season two, but also someone who's definitely evolving. I'm just curious what you're keying into as an actor about Max's personality and his journey and his motivations to give him, more of that confidence for season two.
Well, I remember in season one, I just was like super adamant about him having dignity and integrity, especially not just at work, but with Zoey. And that almost kind of taught him how to grow up, because when you met him in season one, he wasn't that ambitious and was kind of okay with blending in as a coder. Didn't really have like he always says, I'm not management material. Meanwhile, now he's running a full restaurant. So yeah, I thought it was important to have a little bit of a different look. I get out of the button downs and into just more of the just who is he? Mo used to make fun of him in season one about his style. He had no identity really. And so in season two, I really wanted him to come into his own. And in doing so, have that integrity in business with Mo, in his love life with Zoey, and even his musical abilities can even evolve and change. Like we did a little bit of different movement this year, Mandy and Team Dance, especially with the Numb song, and he just has a little bit more, I don't know, just more to him this year, and that evolution was really important to me.
Yeah, and you have a real highlight in episode two, where Zoey and Max are, getting intimate, and your heart song is switching back and forth between I'll Make Love to You and Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And then it leads to this very emotional duet between the two of you on a moment like this. And you are just really going for it in your performance. Can you take us back to that day of filming, what that was like for you?
Well, the actual day of filming was an absolute blast because we had prepped it. It was early on, so we were able to rehearse quite a bit and kind of crack the code on that scene. It was an entire act of television. So the second we came back from commercial, we're in that bedroom, and where we leave is this beautiful emotional moment. And to get there, we had to go through some, slapstick comedy, some bedroom farce, some Jekyll and Hyde transformation. And it was a real showcase for me. I was so gracious to the writers when I read it at the table read. It was really fun. When I did it at the table read, it got a great reaction. And I'm glad that they were like, okay, we can go forward with this. But that only started the conversation with Austin, the director, Anya Adams, and Mandy Moore, our choreographer, just to figure out the kind of the nuances of that moment and to play it as real as possible and never just for the gag. I mean, did I make Mandy laugh every single time I walked to the counter with the pants around my ankles? There was definitely moments where it could be physical. But it was important that when we were doing the Sexy Boys to Men song, to actually be living in the anxiety of it and not leaning into the sexuality of it, because it's really hard to, sing with rose petals, close your eyes, and not lean into the Boys to Men-ish of it and actually play with the why am I singing this and this kind of struggle that he's having. So kind of those moments and finding out where he's at. And more importantly, having Jane there was really helpful too, because she always has such solid opinions. She is, a moment like this in many ways was our first duet, but I always say every song that we've ever done on this show is a duet because Zoey is as much a part of it as the singer and performer. So she always sheds a light on it from her perspective. And if it doesn't make sense to her, then it's probably not going to make sense to our audience.
Right. Well, you actually have quite a few showcase moments this season with like solo performances. You had Numb, as you said before. You have Say Something, New York State of Mind, Anyone. A lot of these performances are very vulnerable, and the choreography is very expressive and raw, and it's all just centered on you. Can you walk us through your process for scenes like that are more open and raw, that are, again, like entirely centered on yourself?
Well, some of them we did live, like the Demi Lovato song "Anyone" we did live, and John Terlesky, our director, was really adamant that we do it live, and they kept it's really difficult to play that because I was supposed to be thinking about Alice Lee's character, but also selling the misdirect to the audience. And it was difficult to kind of receive direction about that misdirect because I was like, I can't be thinking about that. But they were like, we need to stare at Rose the whole time. And I was like, but I'm thinking about postpartum depression. I mean, it was a really weird thing to play. And again, like a challenge for an actor and a singer to do it live. But it has such a reward. And like, I'm so proud of it. And I'm so happy that, while we did record it in the booth and it's nice and pretty for Spotify, like we got to go a little bit deeper. I want to keep doing that in seasons to come. I think any opportunity, New York State of Mind, when I did the reprise at the very end of the episode, that was live as well. Ed Sheeran this week was live, but more for a comedic effect. But yeah, I really like when we do things that are unexpected. Like when we did Numb, I was a little like, we're doing like a punk rock song, for this emotional moment. And then when I heard the rendition, I was really happy. And again, when I heard the demo, I thought that maybe it would be more controlled and more me just kind of like walking through it. And Mandy and Team Dance are like, no, we're going to push you. You're getting up on a table. You're going to be tight roping on a bar. You're going to be physical. And like, I had like stuff on my hand. Like I had like cuts on my hands from rehearsing. And I mean, like we got gritty, and I'm grateful when we were able to take big swings like that.
Yeah. And also you spend quite a bit more screen time this season with Alex Newell, with Max and Mo going into business together. And the two of you have a really fun banter. What do you think it is that makes them such great business partners?
I think that there's like a true earned respect there, and we kind of get there in the beginning of the season. Mo, while Mo is like hilarious and always entertaining, and always, I feel like Max and Mo in season one were like an unlikely pair, and like Mo would kind of make fun of Max, and it was banterish, like you said, but something that I think earns the banter and kind of spins it where they're friends and there's like sensitivities, is that respect that's earned early on. And that Mo was really afraid to go into business and to sign the contract because he had been burned before and didn't have a good history with that. And I think Max saying that, hey, there's actually a scene that was cut for time in episode 3 where Max says to Mo, Mo says that he had broken up with Eddie, and he was really upset because he just feels like he can't be loved. And I basically tell him like, hey, in a way, like we're in our own relationship, you and I, we're business partners, and dare I say more. And I think that that's implied throughout our connection, but Alex and I really said those words to each other. And while the audience maybe didn't get to see that scene, I know that resonates with us, and that informs even our lighthearted moments, throughout the season.
Yeah, definitely. And we also get a fun flashback episode with episode 12, where we see how Zoey and Max meet, which turns out to be a very tumultuous day. And you're back in the Spark Point offices, which we haven't really seen much of him there this season. Can you talk about just resetting to that earlier version of Max for that episode?
Yeah, I had a blast doing that. I mean, when they told me that we were doing the flashback episode, when else do you get to take a character you're playing on a week to week basis and just like flash it back, kind of give yourself and the audience your character's origin story, and have fun with it, and maybe be a little unexpected. I think if you would have asked me last year, how do you think Zoe and Max met? I would have said, they were really like-minded. They had funny banter from the beginning. They met on their first day and immediately gravitated towards each other. But I love that instead of a meet cute, it was more like a bad. And you kind of get to see Max be a little bit more jovial, a little bit more immature, and kind of have a more of a place to grow and come from.
Yeah, and be clean shaven.
And be clean shaven. I know
Yeah.
everyone was like, "Oh my God, you look like a baby."
Yeah. Well, we also get the reveal that Max essentially like sacrificed himself so that Zoe could get the job at Spark Point. And I mean, we knew from the beginning he was this sort of carefree guy, especially compared to Zoe, but that's a big gesture for someone you just met, which I think even like Danny Michael Davis says in that episode, like that's big for someone you just met.
Yeah.
But why do you think he kept that from her for so long?
Oh, I don't know why. I feel like it's kind of probably one of those things in a friendship that like you always think there will be a time and there will come a time where you'll tell them, and then enough time goes by that you're like, it'd be weird if I mentioned it at this point. But I do know why he did it. I think he truly, the way he explains to Danny, she is an excellent coder and she belongs there and she's going to do great things. And I think in his heart of hearts, he couldn't get in the way of that. And it's a very noble thing to do. And it definitely is revisited and talked about in the finale.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say this is actually going to publish after the finale, so I feel like we can talk about that a little bit. We have a
Okay.
pretty huge development for your character. So for those of you watching who haven't seen it, I'll just warn you here about some spoilers. So we have Max changing his mind about going to New York, and he reunites with Zoe, and we discover that he might have actually inherited a power. So how did you react to the revelation there when you first read that?
I had known about that for quite some time. I think it
Okay.
was something that Austin had an idea for early on when he was creating season two. It was one of those things that I knew about and was hoping and praying that I would get that script with it on it. So I think when I finally saw the script, I was like, okay, thank God it hadn't been cut, because it was such a tease to tell me that I'm going to get this ability and this power and that we're building towards this big cliffhanger climax of season two. So it was one of those things where I was just like hoping they'd go through with it and that someone wouldn't like axe it at the last minute. So it was more of a relieved feeling than a revelation. I just love the idea so much. I think it gives us so much real estate to explore in season three. Austin and I have talked a little bit about theory and like what that would mean for Max and Zoe moving forward. I mean, it's a level playing field, but are there moments when Max can hear a certain song that Zoe, hears a different song? And what does that mean about the power? And what does that mean about relationship? And I think it's just a well of opportunity, and also an opportunity to have Jane sing and dance more, which is like such a delight. I mean, she's such a showstopper in that "I'll Melt with You" number, and there's more to expect there. So it'd be fun doing a duet when both of us get to jump in and tag out. There's some fun things to do there.
Yeah. Well, you have 2 seasons in the bag here, and you've done quite a bit on this show, but are there still elements you're hoping to explore with a potential third season with Max outside of, that whole situation with the powers and everything?
Yeah, I want to keep going. I mean, like I think that music is obviously so universal and such a there's such a, again, like a well of opportunities. Like, when do we introduce our first musical instrument? When do we introduce our first original song? Like, is there a song that hasn't been downloaded in Zoe's brain that comes out of me organically that is brand new? Or I played piano. I also want to explore more with movement and different genres there. So I want to keep being on this show as long as it's around, and I don't want to keep doing more of the same. Though I do like that we get to revisit moments. Like I've now gotten to do 2 boy band numbers on this show, and like if in season 3 I get to do another NSYNC or Backstreet Boys song, I will also be forever grateful. But if I get to depart a little bit and do a different kind of style, that would be cool too.
Yeah. Well, just speaking more broadly about your career, I mean, you've done so many musical themed projects like this and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and Pitch Perfect. You're even on an episode of Glee. I mean, I'm wondering if you could speak to what distinguishes Zoey's for you from some of those other projects that is unique in your experience of working on it.
Zoey's is a little different because there's an element of magic, and there's an element of obviously a superpower, which is different. I think our way into the music is different. Like Glee and Pitch Perfect, there's a competition aspect of why they sing. So they're always in the choir room, or they're always at practice, or at a pep rally singing or something like that. And this is truly kind of in a way the way Crazy Ex-Girlfriend does it. Like it's coming out of something different. It's coming from a different place. And while Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is very irreverent and goes in a totally fun music video direction where there's like new costumes and we cut to me in front of a brick wall wearing a totally different outfit, Zoey's just lives in the room. And it would be like if you were literally in a coffee shop and everyone just broke out into song, and how weird that would be and how that would sound differently and how people would move differently within that. So I always look at whether it's a Broadway show or a movie musical, like transitions. Transitions are so important to me, like where the music comes from, and where it's born out of. And so I was really fascinated with this concept and the fact that we've been able to now make all of these original musicals basically on a week-to-week basis, jukebox musical type of a deal where you take your narrative and you interweave popular songs. It's really special and unique, and I hope to continue doing it for as long as it goes.
Yeah. Well, just speaking again to musicals, like a lot of people, I saw that video of you singing Go the Distance as like a makeshift audition for Hercules. Obviously, you have a love of musicals, and I'm wondering actually if you do have like a dream role that you would love to play if you got the opportunity and you could grant yourself the ability to do so on film or TV, stage, anything.
I mean, there's a few. There's Hercules. Like, why not? That's half real. I love that role, and I love the songs. I think I could do it. I love Sunday in the Park with George. It's my favorite Broadway musical of all time. And I just think it's a good sing for me. I love Company, another Stephen Sondheim musical. And then I think there's something to, if there was like a biopic situation of Billy Joel, I would like to attack that. Mm-hmm. I think I have an interesting skill set to play that. When I saw Rocket Man, I thought Taron Egerton was like so incredible. And it's rare that I watch something that I'm like, I think I have the exact skill set that could do that. Like, I think I could do the dramatic and the comedic but also there's like a presence and a stage performance vibe, and I could play an instrument. I just think and he's someone who I've always idolized. So, and I really appreciate his story. And I think the real gritty story is something that could be told. So if that ever happened, maybe I'll option his biography or something like that.
Shoot your shot. I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, for those of you watching, hit like and subscribe for more interviews, and head to goldderby.com to make your Emmy predictions. Thank you so much, Skylar, for taking the time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin.